High Performance Vet Pro Radio.
Welcome to High Performance Vet Pro Radio. Here, you will learn everything you need to know to become a high-performance veterinary professional. We will focus on optimizing your sleep, fitness, nutrition, mental performance, stress response, and work-life balance. Please enjoy these professional interviews with cutting-edge content from Dr. Jennifer Quammen and human performance coach Ryan Smith from hyperliving.com.
And welcome back to High Performance Living and High Performance Vet Pro Radio. This is Ryan Smith, and welcome to today's interview. I met today's guest at the Midwest Veterinary Conference in Columbus, Ohio back in February. And unfortunately, I didn't get to hear all of his talks because I was writing an article for one of the magazines I write for Cincinnati Profile. So I didn't get to listen in on all of them. But what I did, I really enjoyed, and really we share a lot of the same philosophies. So today I'm going to welcome, he's known as America's pet advocate, and that's Dr. Ernie Ward. So welcome to the show, Dr. Ward. Appreciate it.
Brian, yeah, great to be here, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today.
I appreciate your time. I know you're busy. You got lots going on. You're a very busy man with lots of things. I know you're an author. You're an editor with different magazines and different publications. You've been on TV, you're a media personality, you've got, as I said, multiple businesses, you're a personal trainer, you're an Ironman athlete, you're an Ironman coach, you've got, you would truly be what I would call a high performer. So you're...
Well, I appreciate that.
So
I wear that badge, Ryan. I wear that proudly.
Well, great. And we should, and that's where I wanted to bring you on today and kind of talk about, we as High Performance Living want to talk about, how we can help veterinarians live life, kind of at this higher standard. How do you improve all aspects of your life? And we want to also people to know people and hear people that are in the profession that are doing the same thing. I bring a lot of professionals from outside the field to talk about things that they can do, but I want them to hear it firsthand from people that are doing it.
Right.
So.
Well, and as veterinarians, I mean, it's important that we talk of our physical, emotional, and mental well-being. I mean, we focus our efforts, especially, during childhood and young adulthood, on the intellectual side of our being. Neglect oftentimes, I know I certainly did in college, the physical, emotional, and spiritual side. If you're really going to perform at these, what I call optimal levels or peak performance levels, then you have to have complete balance. And I think that, too busy professionals are out of balance, and it doesn't become apparent for quite some time. I often use it just sort of like having one tire that's slightly out of balance. So on your car, you're driving around, no problem. The car still performs fine. Maybe it pulls a little to the left sometimes when you hit the brakes, but no big deal. But over time, that wheel that is out of alignment will suddenly cause the entire car to become out of alignment. And now you have two tires that are failing, and then 3 and 4, and if you don't seek help, you will blow a tire and have a catastrophic accident. So, this, I'm sort of want to make sure that veterinarians and any busy person understands that the slight fluctuations, the slightest imbalances, although they're subtle at first, they can become significant over time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and you've obviously been doing this for a while. So I know you started with your own practice, back in 1993? Is that right?
That's right. Right.
So
yeah, and my story is one of many. I as a child growing up in southwestern Georgia, I was fed and raised in the southern lifestyle. Fried fish, fried food, fried chicken, fried everything. Fried okra was a delicacy at the Ward house.
Right.
Exercise was stressed. I mean, hard work was. I grew up on a small family farm, but really any dedicated aerobic activities or sporting or athletic events really were discouraged. We just didn't have time, and my parents never had the experience. And so you fast forward, and I watch all of my grandfathers die an early death. And then you go back in history and you look at their fathers who died. Now, all of these men had something in common, and that was their lifestyle. They were all obese. They ate a horrible diet, didn't exercise, smoked, and so when my father, when I was in veterinary school, had his chest open and had to have bypass surgery, that was sort of the what I needed, the final straw that broke my back. And so, I completely evaluate my lifestyle, my diet. We switched almost immediately to vegetarianism and have dabbled with veganism over the years. But regardless, started on a path. Now, fast forward to that period you were describing when I started practice in 1990. Well, suddenly, life gets really blurry and busy. And we, while we still maintain vegetarianism, as I described in my book, Chowhounds, I became a junk food vegetarian, which I think vegetarians fall into. I mean, cheese pizza certainly is a vegetarian meal. It's not healthy in the least bit. So, it really took about 4 or 5 years. And what I found was my enthusiasm, my passion, my productivity began to wane as my physical being was being depleted. And so, that led to the final kind of where I am today of embarking on this more holistic approach to health and establishing really good habits.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. And I think that, again, it's not just veterinarians, but it's everybody. But I think, what I know with being in the, around the veterinarian field with my partner, Dr. Jen, we've got, I see lots of other people between going to the conferences and her doing lots of things with the councils and, from the local, the state, and, at the AVMA level, there's just, these are people that I see that are, morbidly obese. These are people that I see that are, ultimately stressed, and, they're not thinking about their own health. They're just thinking about trying to get through the next day.
Right, and the emotional toll that being a veterinarian takes is significant. I mean, we are in a highly charged environment. We're dealing with life and death. We're dealing with distraught, pet owners. We're dealing with euthanasia, which is crippling emotionally. I mean, this is one of the most difficult procedures I have to conduct, and it's no fun. I mean, there's just no way to get around that. And so then what happens with that stress? You rely on coping mechanisms and habits to get day or to face the next day. And this is where, if they're unhealthy habits, overeating, indulging in alcohol or substance abuse, or just not connecting with a spouse or loved one. I mean, all those negative behaviors, that leads to, continued, depression. It leads to continued weight gain. It will bring productivity. And so what I try to encourage people to say is that, look, I can't take stress of being a veterinarian. I'm in it just like you. Right. But what I can do is help you cope with it. That is all the difference in the world between being happy and successful and sustainable in fashion versus burnt out, disillusioned, and ultimately leaving.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, the big thing, so both of us are personal trainers. We're both coaches as far as endurance coaches, me primarily working with runners. I do have a lot of triathletes, but also, everything from the beginning 5K, but also up to an ultra marathoners that I've worked with, so we're used to working with a lot of obviously high performance individuals, but the veterinarians are high performance as well. These are highly motivated people from, the way they're going through school, the way that the competitive nature to get into school, and nobody's helping them and teaching them this, that they're going to have to deal with this through their entire career, right?
Right. And I think too, sometimes people see me or people like you and others, and they go, look, I have zero interest in putting myself through that. And that's fine. I certainly like athleticism and particularly, endurance events, because that is a way to satisfy part of the physical well-being that I need. So it keeps me in balance. But that doesn't mean that yoga can't do the same thing, swimming can't do the same thing, horseback riding. I mean, it doesn't matter what your passion is. It's fine and following it. And I do believe, of course, in keeping a strong, body and mind is essential to our success and happiness. But the reality is vets, don't have to do these outrageous physical feats to be healthy and balanced. But you've got to do something, because what happens for most veterinarians is at the end of the day, they are so out and stressed, they go straight home, eat a high-fat, high-carb, high-sugar, maybe an alcohol or some substance, and crash out on the couch, and that is not going to sustain you. You will be able to do that for about 10 years, and then you're toast. Either you sort of go through this renewed, you resurrect yourself, or you wind completely spending the next 10 years of your life in utter unhappiness, just not being good for the profession. And that's what I have a problem with.
Right. Absolutely. It's like, I'm not asking for people to have six-pack abs. I'm not asking for them to go out and do, huge events or whatever it is, whether it be, a Spartan race or, they're the Tough Mudders or doing, triathlons or running marathons. It's not about any of that stuff. It's about, if you have a 200-pound animal that's in your office, if you're a small animal and you have to get down on the floor because you're obviously not going to get them up to a table, can you squat down and actually touch this animal? Can you get down and be on their level? Because you probably know about the behavior and what what it takes whenever you're above the animal, right? And there's so much that goes on there. But if you can't squat down and you can't move, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah, and Ryan, I'll tell you, I've over my couple of decades and a half in this profession, I've seen other professions to learn success secrets from them and what allows them to be successful. And I think it's a note, the number one reason for retirement for dentists isn't because they're burnt out, isn't because they have made so much money they can retire. It is due to lower back injury. And so this physicality, and when you look at the studies, the dentists who very early in their career adopt ergonomic techniques, they strengthen their core. They do all these steps to prevent the injury. They continue to practice dentistry into their 60s. But the ones that sort of neglected it, maybe you put on rounds in their 30s and 40s, well, they're out of the game by 50. Right. And that really a lesson early in my career that, like you're describing functional strength. I mean, so we need to be able to kind of pick up a Labrador or restrain, a St. Bernard or whatever it is we have to do during our daily routines. But don't forget, not only does our back have to hold up, but our spirit has to hold up. And long gone are the days where we view this as the mind and body as separate entities. This is one interconnected unit. And if one of us is out of balance, I will tell you, you will not be able to sustain in this profession. That's what I see people that literally they're 10 years into the profession and they are falling apart at the seams. And it breaks my heart because you rewind the tape and you go back to this young, enthusiastic, ready to take on the world, young veterinarian, and now 10 years later they're just driveled. They're so hollowed out. They have no more soul and spirit. And what the heck happened? Right. And you know what happened? We didn't teach them how to cope. They didn't seek it out on their own, and we now have a disaster.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I've worked in the financial industry. I've seen the same thing, how the people that are sitting behind a desk all the time, it is just, again, it goes across everything. And you think about even with the kids growing up now. So, what we do the same thing to our kids, right? We've removed physical activity from the schools because that's the funding is cut. So we remove the physical activity because we got to educate them. So we sit them in a classroom for 8 hours, or then we put them in a classroom in college for 8 hours or more, right? And nobody learns to move anymore. And nobody learns how to take care of themselves. They don't think about what are the effects of all of these things. It's like, how does this affect my brain? How do I think, right?
Yeah, I agree. And so what I'd like to talk about now a little bit, if it's okay, is I think most people listening get it. We know we're unhappy, unhealthy, we can do better. Right. But, what are the things that in my personal life and what you do in your personal life that actually make it real? Right. Because that's where I think, we lose people. Because in the time that you're going to listen to this podcast, you could have made tremendous changes to your body and spirit. You could have been walking. You could have been on a bike. You could have been on a treadmill. You could have been running around your neighborhood. I don't know what it is. You could be walking your dog at the beach. But you could have been doing something that's going to benefit you. And I think the first thing that I try to teach anybody or influence anybody is that every moment counts. I mean, we're either making a decision that makes your life better or worse every instant. I think that, I remember studying and learning Earl Nightingale as a child. My father kind of turned me on to some of those power of positive thinking and living,
Right.
gurus back, when I did. And we think about, you can only hold one instant in your mind, one thought in your mind at a given time. And so are you making it better? Are you making it worse? It's a very simple decision. I mean, you choose to put something in your mouth. Is it making your body healthier, stronger, more vital, or is it? And that's not to say that I don't enjoy a cookie or ice cream from time to time. But the key is time to time, and it's a reward. I mean, it's so the first thing is to approach every moment of your life as, am I getting better or am I not? And so I think that's the first. When I wake up in the morning, I will say that the most important thing I think that people do begins the night before. They don't get enough sleep. They stay up too late. They watch high stress movies or TV shows. I don't know if you heard in my lectures, but I'll talk. The worst thing for Americans is CSI. It comes on at 10 p.m. on Eastern time, and so they watch this show that's just extremely violent, threatening, intimidating, and fear-inducing just before you go to bed. Well, it's telling your brain, be on the alert because there could be a murderer at my door. So you're going to get restful sleep if that is how you enter into sleep, because your brain, your limbic system, can't turn off between reality and fantasy, and it's just going, there's a lot of bad in the world. Be vigilant so you don't get a good restful night's sleep.
Right.
The other thing is we eat before we go to bed. I've got a rule. You really need to watch what you eat. You need to try to eat dinner at least 3 hours to the time you want to go to sleep. You really need to limit your carbs in particular, types of things. I think dessert at the end of a dinner is one of the worst things you can do. I never get coffee or tea at the end. I mean, all these things will sabotage REM sleep.
Right.
Those 4 REM cycles to wake up refreshed and regenerated. So when you go to bed, you go to bed. I have a funny rule. Our bed is used for 2 things. One of them is sleeping.
Right.
But you want to make sure that you are creating a habit of how you fall to sleep. I'm still shocked and dismayed at the number of Americans that eat in bed. I mean, no way you can train your body to use the bed for sleeping if you're also telling it, this is where we eat, where we get scared to death of murderers. So the night before, let's do that. Now, you're trying to make the other thing is no lighted screens. That is, this is what frightens me the most about the young children. And we have to take very strict, I have teenage girls, and this is just a hard, fast rule. I mean, those lighted devices, I'm talking iPhones, the iPads, even the computers, are emitting blue wavelength light, which absolutely suppresses melatonin, which is what you need to go to sleep. So you've got to turn. In fact, I will say, do not bring your cell phone into your bedroom. It is a distraction. We've gotten so used to checking our text and Twitter and email, every 5 minutes that brain is going, it's right there. I need to check it. It's right there. I need to check it. What if something is breaking? What if there's something I need to respond to? You got to get that away from you. Leave it downstairs. Leave it in another room. Don't park it in the room with you because it is going to lead you to anxiety.
Right.
And I think the other thing is, people now, they start their day off, they roll over, grab their smartphone, and the first thing they do is check their social media, they check their email or whatever. And that's dangerous because you've just allowed someone else to dictate the start of your day. I am a selfish person. When my day starts, I want to own that start.
Yep.
So take these electronics out of your room. Get up early. If you want to sustain an exercise program, most people, due to our life, are going to have to do it in the morning because if you put it in the afternoon, life builds up, things get delayed, and suddenly your best intentions running when you got home after work are sabotaged because your kid had ran late at practice or you had that last-minute emergency. I mean, whatever, you got to get it in the morning.
Right.
Fucking 30 minutes. Still yourself, I like having a routine. I'm a big fan of morning routines in particular, but sort of have this pattern that you go through. Set your clothes the night before so that you're already committed to getting up and doing it. Go for a walk, go for a run, go for a swim, walk your dog. I don't care what you do, but start the day in a matter of stillness, physical activity, and all it takes is 30 minutes.
Right. Yep.
When you come back in, again, where I want you to be careful with your nutritional choices. Don't go chow down on, little dish or, a really high sugar meal. I'm kind of anti-sugar, if you haven't been able to tell that. But we
Me
just
too.
don't like these big glycemic spikes.
Right.
I don't like what insulin does to the body in excess. So, I want you to start to do that. I mean, there's a lot of other things that I personally probably would sound wacky. I'm a big fan of inversion tables. I do believe that everybody should do stretches, be it yoga routine, or even if you just learn a couple of good stretches. That's how you should start your day. You should have some time when you just reflect on, nothing, to try to get your mind centered and focused. And, and this is, where all of us start to sound strange when we do this. But I would say, what is your morning routine? Can you tell me what it is? And do you duplicate that day in and day out? That is, to me, that's a key indicator who's healthy and successful.
Right. Yep. I'm in 100% agreement on everything that you say there. I mean, it is, and again, we start to sound kind of wacky when we start talking about things because that's where the next thing comes up, and it's like, how do I fit this into my day? Because I am so busy. And it's like, but here you are as a person who's doing this and who's excelling in business, in practice, and everything that you do, but these are your success habits, right?
Right. Yeah. And the funny thing is, the more successful people you know, and I will say this, as I've said in innumerable lectures and articles, if you want to be successful, you find people that are more successful than you. You don't take advice from people that are less successful from you.
Right.
I mean, I'm a big believer in that. So when you start to surround yourself with these really, really high achieving people, you find some common denominators. And I will tell you that rituals are a common denominator. I've got friends that are wildly successful, and we all do certain things, and we do it every day. And when you kind of upset the apple cart, our day doesn't go quite as well. Because we have gotten this we get this power, this energy from this rule, this pattern, this habit. And, we rely on that. That centers me. My mornings, are very, very important. I mean, we had a daughter that was sick a couple of weeks ago. So my morning routine was shot. All these things I just described completely go out the window, right? Because you got a fever, they're vomiting. I mean, they're really sick. So you're up all night. You're, up at the crack of dawn. You make sure your baby's doing okay.
Right.
And those are the days that are the toughest, because you never get your footing back. And so I will say that when you feel that out of control feeling, it's because you never even started in control.
Right.
When you feel out of control, you never attempted to gain control. I gain control by starting my day off in a certain fashion, filling my mind with thoughts, and then moving forward. And then throughout the day, people always say, what do you do at lunch, whatever. I mean, that's right? I mean, we're all busy. We do, some days, I have a great lunch. Some days I'm eating, out of a bag. I mean, so that I don't really get focused on that. I then next turn my habit home. I'm a big fan when we come in the evenings of sitting down at a table with my two daughters and wife. We find that to be really important as a family unit. We're to the winds, especially with teenage girls, but we come together for dinner. And that doesn't mean we do it every, of the week, but we do it probably 90% of the time. I mean, it's kind of sacrosanct house. But you sit down, you share a meal, you talk about things, you connect. And I think that's really essential. Next, pattern would be, what do you do immediately after you eat? Are you watching TV all night long? Are you reading or whatever? I'm not going to judge or say whatever, but have sort of a routine. The key to the evening routine to me is setting an early bed. I tell you right now, the most successful people I know, we all do one thing. We go to bed early, we get up. I mean, it is almost to a person. I can tell you, we all are like, yeah, man, it's 9. I've got to be in bed. This is ridiculous. And over the years, as I lecture and go around to these places, people will say, well, let's go to dinner. And it's like, sure, if you can take me out at 6 o'clock.
Right. Exactly.
And it never, of course, that doesn't happen. But the reality is, you've got to focus, because that next day, you have life. And I just don't want to waste it away, watching some stupid TV show. I want to do things that are meaningful and helpful and give love and compassion to my family.
No, absolutely. And I think that's why whenever we were at Midwest, it was like, okay, this is somebody that we need to talk to, because these are all the things that, I can preach it all day long, but people also need to hear from other people that are successful in doing this. So I love what you're saying. This is absolutely, spot on with what I feel. So
I'll tell you too, if it's okay, just one quick
Sure.
thing. One of the things that I've found, and certainly, I am a veterinarian foremost. I do all my other stuff, but I've helped a lot of people lose weight and complete 5Ks and marathons and triathlons. I mean, just like you. I mean, but I dabble, right? One of the things I found early on with trying to help people resurrect their life, improve their health, was an exercise, and to this day it's held true. And most people, and I'd love to get your feedback on this. If I'm trying to help somebody, so they come to me, they say, Ernie, gosh, I'd really like to. I mean, my life is out of control. I'm just trying to, what can I do? And I said, here's the first thing. Before I can help you or anybody can, I need some data. I'm a data-driven scientist, so I got into medicine. So here's what I want you to do. Give me some data. The next week, I just want you to do something just on a piece of paper, on your iPhone, whatever. Somehow log everything you eat and drink and your basic activities. I mean, I don't need you to, if you're counting steps, that's great. But, if you go for a walk for 10 minutes with your dog in the morning, whatever, just do that for a week and then send me that file. And Ryan, that is the determining act.
Absolutely.
Because the people that don't do it, no shot.
Mm-hmm.
The people that halfway do it, 50-50. People, though, that go, I'm going to write down and actually give me some data, those overwhelmingly will achieve their goal. So if you're listening today and you're trying to do something different in your life, I don't care what it is, whether it's your business, your personal health, or your family, I say, whatever it is you're trying to tackle, write down what your habit is right now, every day for a week, because that'll tell you a lot about your commitment and dedication to making change.
Yep. Absolutely. And me doing this for so long, it's that same thing. Let's log it. I need to know where you are. So, it's hard to make any change if you don't know where you're starting, right?
Right. And even to this day, I have a very good grasp of my caloric requirements based on activities, and I know about how much I'm burning, just from watching a lot of my results over the years.
Right.
But like right now, I'm in a cut phase, so that means that I am trying to wait for the next level of part of my training program. I'm in a cut phase, like most of us. We tend to do this, after the winter or whatever. Right. And I log it right now. You can look on my iPhone, and I use an app called MyFitnessPal. I just got into it. It's free. I recommend it to a lot of people. I don't have any stock or anything in this company, but it's an easy, free stuff. And I'm logging that. So I'll do this for. I usually, when I'm cutting, it's usually a week phase. And so, you can go back and look historically at probably the last 4 or 5 years the app came out. You can look back at what I've done during different phases. So even me today, and I'm a pretty disciplined person as far as eating and exercise, I will log it just to me to shave that extra 200 calories per day or whatever it is my target is.
Right. Yep. No, I absolutely. And I'm a big proponent of, and again, dealing with veterinarians who are data-driven people. With me, if I want to create some change, I want to see, and not just that, we as our part of our high performance living business, deep dive. We actually work with things where we're actually monitoring your sleep, so we can actually see what your heart rate variability is. What is your nervous system doing while you're sleeping? Are you recovered? Are you way out of balance? What's your heart rate doing? Are you sleeping well? So we can see that. We want to see your nutrition. We want to see, what is your heart rate variability and your stress level. So we can start making these changes. What is your movement quality? Whether are you moving, just like you said, are you tracking stuff? We talked about at the conference, I do a lot of the functional movement stuff, and it's a way for me to quantify how well somebody moves. And absolutely, if I can see the data, I know where we can go and start making changes.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I still to this day lament the Zeo. Zeo was an incredible sleep monitoring system that actually measured EEG brainwaves. My wife and I wore them. I've written a couple of articles back when they were in vogue. We used to call them the coal mining, lamps, because it looked like a little thing. But regardless, I learned a lot about what gives me restful, restorative sleep just by I was active for the couple of years.
Right.
And I still have those units. There's no updates on the apps, and quite frankly, the contacts on mine are wearing down. They used a silver coat wears off.
Right.
But regardless, you have to have the data. For example, the Zeo taught that if I took one of the supplements that I take, astaxanthin, at in the evening at bedtime affected REM sleep. Now, I would have never, ever discovered that or even known that decreased, almost by one REM cycle. Taking that supplement. It also taught me, for example, I have zero tolerance for red wine. Now, I enjoy, I will drink a glass of wine, 2 or 3 times a week, but I will not drink red wine because my data taught my body doesn't handle it.
Right.
Another thing that I'm a big fan of, and again, they're going to be, but that is genetic analysis, profiling of yourself.
Right.
My entire family, the 23andMe, which is a great, service. But it's important for to actually get baselines. For years and years, I've said if you are not at minimum getting urine profiles on yourself annually, then please do not recommend that to your for their pets, because you are not walking the walk. And I will tell you that having done this for my entire adult life, I'm a hardcore blood and urine test guy. You will see trend, and you can tweak. You can hack your body. And I think that's where data becomes important. I mean, if you're not wearing an activity monitor, I would say really consider it. I mean, we've got so many smartwatches now. Your cell phone can be used as an odometer. You can get Fitbits, Jawbone. I mean, all those different devices are great. It's important if you are trying to make changes that you have data, because too often we just look back anecdotally and we go, yeah, I just didn't get a good night's rest last night. Why? Because if you can't answer that, the next night it's not going to be any better.
Absolutely. Yep. No, I agree. So that's, and this is where I want us all to go. It's like, I want all of these people to just start raising that standard. You got to be aware. Awareness is the first place to go. So let's start raising that standard on just what you're doing a little bit. Okay, let's figure out, why are you not sleeping well? Okay, so we got to take some data. So that's some, this is where we need to start. But on the other side of it, I want to kind of dive down to this. What about the people that are struggling? So I know you had a friend that we lost last year, but there's been a lot of, awareness that's been raised in the last year about, the depression rates, suicide, all these things that are going on in the veterinary profession, and not just there, but it's just, it's kind of awareness in the profession. How do we take these people and help them raise their standard?
Yeah, and this is a really good segue, because it becomes one what our reality has become. There's an old saying that the horseradish to a horseradish worm. So we start to live in this highly tense environment. We become depressed. We become less optimal and not performing at our peak like we would like to and really should be doing. And so we keep setting, as I say in my lectures, our normometer. So what was normal when you were 20 is very different when you are 40, and it's very different when you are 60. And that's a decline. That curve is going down. You sit back and you go, why would I expect less of myself when I'm 40 as opposed to when you're 60? And so why would this change? And this just leads us to this thing. You don't understand how stressed, depressed, and underperforming you are if you're just looking at it from your worldview, because you're the horseradish worm. You're just looking around, you're going, this is all bad. Right. And we tend to surround ourselves with other negative forces, and we like begets. And so when we talk about depression, and of course suicide is the result of that in the worst case scenario, you start to go back and you go, how do we get there? Well, the person who is depressed often doesn't realize it. And so it is incumbent upon other people who see decline in another to speak up. I lost a friend. She was a friend to our profession last year, Dr. Sophia Yen. And, we saw her about a month and a half or so before she left us. And, we didn't quite put it all together. In hindsight, my wife was going, oh gosh, I totally missed that or whatever. So I would say, if you're a veterinarian, be hypersensitive to these issues in yourself and in others in the profession. Number 2, if you see it, ask if there's anything you can do to help. Talk to friends and colleagues of that person that maybe have a trusting relationship and say, hey, I'm just making sure everything's okay with him or her. And then finally, really start asking others about yourself. If you are not in, if you the great things about my relationship with my wife is we're able to have a very open and honest discourse with her. And, and she's able to say, hey, the past couple of weeks, what's going on? You kind of feeling stressed, or you down, or you're tired, or whatever. And we, and vice versa. And I think if you don't have that person in your life, you need to seek it out, because you need a reality check. You also need who's going to continue to push you, because it is very easy in life to plateau and hey, I'm pretty successful, or I'm doing okay, and that's really not okay. It's not up to potential. What I found is that I was wildly successful early in my career, and I thought, wow, this is great. But I was starting to fall into some unhealthy habits, and mentally and physically just sort of not where I wanted to be. And then when I sort of fought trend, came back, I realized, wow, I wasn't doing half of what I could do. I mean, I am today much more work and completing more things than I was in my 20s. And here I am almost 50, and I feel great about that. I lost my father a few months ago, and it was interesting. We were having these conversations. And he had a long battle with cancer, and although he still left too soon, we knew it was coming. And the interesting things he said, he kept saying, the rotten thing about life is when really living life, he goes, it never slows down. And he wasn't slowing down. I mean, before he died, he was doing some extremely physical activities, and which is exactly how you be. You want to go out on a high note.
Right.
But the reality is, for so many people, we just this gradual decline. We let the bell curve catch us at the end, and we go, this is normal. Gosh, I am 45 years old. I am 35 years old. Whatever age you say, and you guys, it's normal not to feel the same as I did when I'm 25. I call baloney on that.
Right.
I do not agree with that. I don't believe that's how we were designed physiologically. I mean, systems are designed to work a very, very long time, 100+ years. We want to make sure that we're doing things to ensure that we can stay as sharp as possible. And don't blame your genes, because we know now from the study of epigenetics that only about 30% of what's going to happen to you is determined solely by your genes. The other 2/3, it's by how you interact with those genes.
Yep.
That's what we're talking about.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, that's, again, so much the core of it is you've got to take care of yourself. You've got to live life to its fullest, right? What is your, what are your things that help you to, find your passion and live your passion, right? So like your dad, he was all the way up, through the end. I actually had my great-grandfather, I can still remember to this day that, I mean, like when he was in his late 80s, he had a tractor roll over him, almost crush him to death, came back the next year and had a tobacco base, and he was had his last tobacco base in eastern Kentucky whenever he was, like 93. He was still farming, and get up every day, 4 a.m., boom, out there, and it's that work ethic and what you do and how you live, right?
Yeah. And the danger with this is there is, in our society in particular, there's this sort of belief that if you're depressed, if you're just not performing well, you're just not working hard enough. You're just not tough enough. You're just not worth enough. And I would always caution people to say that, look, depression is a real disease. It's something getting the flu. It's an awful thing.
Right.
But, the reality is there are symptoms and there are tests and there are treatments. And so, when I get mental illness, depression, decreased productivity, lack of enthusiasm, all those things, they are problems with solutions and great hope with all this. Often, I'll be honest with you, having given hours of these types of lectures that I'm just like, gosh, I know that somebody may hear this today in this room, and you walk out of some of these rooms, you're just like, gosh, nobody really that I was talking about. But the reality is we have to keep talking about it. It has to be in the forefront, because if it is not, then we are going to continue to lose people. This is a highly stressful environment. And if our profession truly is going to get to this next level, because I think we're just started, we are going to have to overcome this and within each of us become the performance individuals that we are destined to be, and not allow the world to and in any way reduce our potential.
Right. Absolutely. So I've got two last questions here kind of for us to finish up so we can kind of know you got a lot going on today, and so I kind of want to obviously be cognizant of everybody's time. But so one of the things that I want to really ask you, and I know you talked about a little bit about losing your father a little bit ago, but everybody has struggles. We're not always up. It sounds like whenever you're up there talking, or whenever you're listening to you on this, the podcast here, everybody's like, oh my God, these are the people that are always up. I can't relate to them because that they're always so positive. They're always so up. It's not my life. So tell us about a time whenever you had a major struggle and how you dealt with it and how you kind of overcome that.
Oh, yeah, and I'm still struggling with the father. My father, of course, like many people, the most important person in my life. My mother alive, and obviously she's very important, but, I'm a son to a father. I was the firstborn son. When all of these things start to happen, I mean, it's unfair, you're angry and stuff. I am fortunate because I do have religious faith, and I feel that's that spiritual component, so like you lock down the intellectual, check. You're smart people, you're listening to this podcast, you went to vet school or tech school, I mean, you're smart performers.
Right.
Check. Then you look emotional. Hey, I'm happily married, I have kids, I mean, whatever, so maybe that's fine too. Physically, I can run a fine. But we can't forget that spiritual aspect, because when I find that I'm most down, challenged, and feels like the world is a burden, and it's like, why do I want to keep going? I mean, really, do I have to travel to Kalamazoo to give this lecture? Because, they don't want to hear me. You feel those things, those negative thoughts that start to fill it. At least I've got the spiritual, component to sort of buoy my soul. And I think that's really important to have. Again, I am, I'm a Christian, so that means I have one set of beliefs, but really, and at the risk of offending my minister, as long as you've got something spiritual, I'm okay with that, because I know that's a step in the right direction for filling that void. But I've had, I really, it was interesting to watch other family members sort of, as we've all gone through and evolved in our grief, process. Mm-hmm. And I will say that having all of those things in balance really has me deal with what I guess is going to be the hardest thing that Anna's going to deal with is losing the father. It's going to suck when I lose my mom, but I've really been steadied by that. I also think back to a time in my veterinary career when I was a solo practitioner. I'd been doing about 10 years. Wildly successful. There was 3 of us at the time that had broken over $1 million in gross, and the 90s, so this was a big deal at the time. And I was the only one who did it. Well, I shouldn't say that. Dr. Chang, I didn't do it. We didn't have boarding, and the other guy in Texas had boarding. And so I was literally at the limit of what I could do as far as hours work, managing personnel. I mean, I had probably 34 or 36 full-time employees for one vet. At that time, it was a massive operation. And I really was just doing it because I had to do it, and I kind of wanted to see what the limits were, and I pretty much found them at about $250,000 at the time. So, I found myself getting down, and every day when I would feel down and depressed and just like, why, clients coming in, complaining, people just angry, whatever, I found a real easy, the temptation was to eat, to drink, to do, to do, and the way I got through it, man, was I would just say, nope, I got to go for a run, got to go for a swim, I've got to do something, and it would take me away from it. And I felt selfish. Wow, you're going to leave your kids and your wife and your practice. You got to do it, because if you step away for that 30 minutes, hour, whatever it is that's your sweet spot, you will not be able to persevere. And so, when people are listening to this and they're going, they can't relate to it, there's just no way I can do it. It starts by putting one foot in front of the other. It starts by just walking outside of your door. It starts by just saying, nope, this isn't being selfish. This is actually a selfless act, because if I don't get my act together, all those depending on me, all those pets, all those clients, all those employees, they are going to suffer. And so when people, start to throw this argument, and gosh, Ernie, it's pretty selfish what you do there. These hours of training and all these events that you do, I kind of have to steady myself and go, wait a sec, you know what? while it may look that way from the outside, I am able to be this high performance person because of that. And that is much better than me sitting on the couch. I used to make fun of some of my buddies because I was like, spending quality time with your kids is not the couch watching NASCAR.
Right. Yeah.
Spending quality time with your kids is going out, playing stuff, doing stuff, and so be careful. But I know it's hard, and there's going to come a time in your life when you always will. There's going to be somebody who's going, gosh, like I remember the first time I heard Tony Robbins speak, I was like, what am I doing giving a lecture? Why am I trying to do this? This guy is so above my ability that why bother? Zig Ziglar did the same thing to me. I kind of walked out of, a motivation depressed.
Right.
I can't be that good. And what you wind up doing is saying, nope, I'm a unique individual. There's only one of me in this world. I feel like I have certain gifts and abilities, and I use them to my fullest, capacity. And that means staying healthy and strong. And I know we were all over that question, but you know what? I'm no different than anybody else. I've got the same problems. The only difference is how I deal with them.
Yep, absolutely. Great response for that. I appreciate that. So the last question you're kind of the first person we're going to start asking these last two questions because we want everybody to relate, to what's going on. So the last one that I want to ask is, how would you define a high performer, or a high performance life? And in just three, we talked a lot about, okay, your sleep and all the things. What would be the first three things that you would do? So to start kind of on that, raising that level of a high performance life.
Yeah, I think that the first thing I look for, like if I'm defining somebody who is successful or high performing, is contribution. What are they contributing to the community, to their profession, to their family? I want to see tangible things. This is, I have a good friend who is a very, very successful business person. And, I could go, he developed this huge company, and everybody would recognize it, so I don't want to grab it. That's a contribution. I think that's really important because he did that. Mm-hmm. The second thing I say is these are, what I would call authentic people. So not are they successful in terms of contributing to their communities or schools, but now they're real people. These aren't people that are doing it for an ulterior purpose. They're authentic in their desire to do something. And again, I don't care what you're doing as long as it's positive and giving a contribution. So are you real? Because the worst thing ever is to that charlatan, that person who you realize, wow, they did contribution, but wow, he was sleeping around with his wife, or wow, he was on drugs. That's awful. And the media loves that stuff, and that's what we tend to fill our minds with, and we become very suspicious, skeptical. But I want authenticity. And then I think probably the final thing when we look at, how can you do this, is it's purposeful. You've got this purpose. I mean, like I meet people and can you instantly tell what you're all about? Like, what are you trying to do? Like, how can I define you? I hope that when they meet me that they're going to say energetic, positive, successful. I mean, those types of because that's what my essence. So, again, what is your purpose? I believe in helping, so tough question.
Right.
Ryan.
Yeah. Sure.
Really impossible to say in 30 seconds.
Sure.
But I think that if you can check those boxes, you're contributing to the world in a positive fashion. You are somehow authentic. Really, you're real, and you've got a true purpose. There's a purpose that I can understand instantly from connecting with you. I mean, you meet you and you instantly get it. This guy is trying to people live healthier, more successful lives. Pretty simple, and hopefully that's what you're hoping to, but you get it. It just exudes from every pore, right. And you want to be sending those signals to the universe. And I find that so few people find that passion and purpose. They don't want it to contribute, and at the end of the day, it's like, are they wearing a mask? And right. You can strip it away and get real and raw. Man, world just becomes so much more.
Absolutely. Well, great. Well, thanks for that. That's what, those are those things that we want to hear. We want everybody to go, okay, am I checking off these boxes? And we want them to live that, just be somewhere above where you are. Can work on that continuous improvement. So great. Well, I appreciate everything that you've shared with us. I want to really thank you for joining us and kind of sharing your story with everybody. So if people wanted to find out more about you, your books, things like that, where can they get information?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I have a website. I'll be honest. I'm not the big website guy, but Dr. Ernie Ward. And there's lots of information and links and stuff like that. Social media. We're really active there. So, Facebook, Dr. Ernie Ward. Twitter @Dr. Ernie Ward. Instagram, Dr. Ernie. Pretty much, if you Google Dr. Ernie Ward. But those are things I do typically, especially Twitter. Tend to lean heavily into some type issues and so forth, in addition to the pet stuff.
Right.
Facebook sort of sometimes, but it's much more geared to the what a vet could share. Like every time I post on my Facebook, I just want to, if you're a veterinarian listening, it's something that you could share with your pets in confidence and know that it's legit, it's a good thing, and maybe provocative, but it's something we should talk about. So those are the ways to connect. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. Certainly I will get back to you if it's early in the morning. Don't expect it, but
or after 9 o'clock.
Or 9 o'clock, yeah. And I will tell you, the best thing that ever happened was that Do Not Disturb came on the iPhone. That is important. You just need to shut that thing down, because of all the things, I love technology. I am a geek when it comes to gear. But the reality is, it's becoming intrusive into our personal space and lives, and we have got to shut down. You have got to fast from these devices from time to time, or our species is going to burn out.
Absolutely.
It's funny. I was talking to a guy. We were doing some future stuff, and we were talking about implantable devices. I've got a phone call later today with a friend of mine who's very big case, and the big thing is the neural interface that would allow you to communicate with computers, devices, and so forth, and we're raising, these are some frightening questions, and this is all going to happen in our lifetime. And what if there's something that you could just implant in your body somewhere and you're always on, right?
Yep.
Have concerns.
Absolutely. And I don't know that our biology is necessarily keeping up with the technology yet. We're still ancestral in so many ways, but technology has, come so far. And I don't know that we know the full effects of everything that we're doing.
Yep, for sure. So, again, thanks for doing what you're doing, Ryan.
I absolutely appreciate it. Well, I just want to say, everybody, we appreciate you listening. Thanks for joining us again here with the High Performance Vet Pro Radio. And if you've got comments, you want to hear other interviews, you want to let us know what you like, what you don't like, you can let us know on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, all the different places. You can also send us an email at life@highperf, HIGHPERF, living, LIVING.com. And until next time, we invite you to live life to a higher standard. Have a great week.
Thank you for joining us at High Performance Vet Pro Radio. We hope to hear from you soon. Like this episode? Leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud. It helps us to reach more veterinary professionals. For more information or to contact us, please visit us at highperfliving.com. Until next time, remember to live every day with intention.